G'day and welcome to the Inforunners. I'm Execute, joined today by Algared and the Astropub. Paul, you did it again. Right, anyway, let's just keep going. Right, what are we doing today? We're doing Anvil AIE. There's been like two updated ships, I guess I call them. We've had the medical Terrapin, and we've also got the Paladin to talk about as well. Me and Algared and Paul will probably do bias guides later today. For most of those, we'll probably smack the two Hornets together. But we'll do those later. Today we're really going to focus on the sales stuff, and we'll kick it over to the browser. Here we go. Right. So yeah, these are all the new ones, as we were just saying. We've got a Valkyrie with 10 months insurance, or 10
years.
10 years, sorry. Yep, I'm tired. Thank you for covering. $350, so $25, and you could probably get that for $5. So that's not too bad. That's pretty good. But I don't know what that's going to fall in come the finale. So yeah.
We'll see if those CCUs come back as a finale, because there's been some theories that it may not. So
I got a quick question for you. I know we've got the kind of Pisces. Do you guys see this as an advanced starter from Anvil? I'm just curious, or do you see it as fighter, so it's in a different field? I'm just curious.
The Arrow.
Yeah, the Arrow. Is it an Anvil advanced starter, or is it separate and it's a combat craft? I'm not sure. So I was just kind of thinking about the other day.
It's going to be an advanced starter in the way that it's also a profession starter. It's probably the cheapest profession starter because it's $75. I think you could get a package with it at some point. I don't know if you can anymore.
You can always upgrade from another one, but it is a fighter I can kind of get behind just because it's the cheapest. If it's your thing, I think it's the gateway.
To use the Elite Dangerous example, this is the Eagle.
Yeah. But it does limit a lot what you can do. You're giving up a lot of generalities to focus on just combat, and obviously because of its size, you're going to lose a lot of range and stuff like that. So it may pigeonhole you at a later date.
Yeah,
I vaguely remember doing a comparison with this and things like the P52 and P72, and at one point, they seemed very, very similar in components and loadout of weapons. I think this had more missiles, and that was about it.
I remember the day we took this out, we took the Mustang out and the Aurora out, and we put them all next to each other, and it is very tiny.
It was tiny.
And just the sheer amount of these that you'll be able to fit into another ship, if it's just talking about fitting, this will... I don't know. I reckon this will come around again when we eventually get an Anvil capital ship.
You can fit 8 of these into a Polaris.
Yeah, you can fit 3 of these on the landing pad of an 890 jump, so they can all 3 vertically take off.
Yeah,
without bumping or without that weird squishing and squashing that you do to get extras in.
And it's been in the meta backwards and forwards over the years, so we'll have to see what happens down the line. But as fighters go, I give it a lot of credit for its price. So yeah. All right.
It's still a fighter, though.
Yeah,
it's still a fighter. Yeah. So we will say, don't buy it.
Yeah. I would still.
Unless it's your thing.
Yeah, Personally, I'd still prefer a generalized starter ship at this price range than something more niche. I think you need the variety at the start, personally, but each to their own. The Ballista. Oh my god.
Price.
Yeah,
price.
Oof. I can't get behind a vehicle this expensive. Like, I understand why they're kind of, the LTI stuff and the way insurance has popped out now. But again, I just think vehicles are just not generally going to be worth it. Yes, military vehicles have to be crafted now. They can't be bought, but you can buy them from other players eventually. So basically, the first couple of weeks when the game comes out, there's going to be that bit of timing. But once you can buy it off the market from a player, all that thing is going to dissipate quite a lot.
And as you're saying, it really is hard to get behind the price of that, even if it was a brilliant vehicle. When the ship we just looked at, the Arrow, is a ship that can go transverse between systems or planets, and it's got the quantum drive and.
Well, two of the Arrow is 150, and if we actually go to the next ship, you literally can get 2 of that for the same price. It's bananas.
It's just nuts, and that's the great beef about all the vehicles, isn't it? You're paying ship prices for things that cannot leave system without help.
I'm just going to remind you, Algared, don't get excited, because every time you get excited, you're peaking.
Yeah, I'm sorry.
Yeah.
Try not to get excited. Try not to get excited.
He's got no issue with his mic, and we tried to fix it the last couple of days.
We're
but every
trying
time
to
we
fix
get
it,
he just peaks and he flatlines. So I don't know how to
Yeah.
fix it. Yeah.
It's
Like my
because
heart.
since he came back from the trip, it's been kind of off and things have been issues. So we're going to fix it at some point, but just bear with us for this one.
Yeah.
C8R Pisces. I think that this is probably not as valuable as people say it is.
Yeah, I think
I'll give you.
it's going to
I'll
age
tell you.
worse, you reckon, than some of the other ones. Yeah.
It's good now because it's great for like respawning, but this is a ship that was designed with the immediate gameplay in mind and support gameplay down the line.
I
Right
think
now it's great because it lets regen and it has, and it's good for Stanton. But once you have to go through multiple systems and the actual like cost of keeping these things up, because these things are going to require resources. You're going to have the medicine and stuff like that. You're going to have to restock. So you're only going to be able to run this for so long without other support. When you have ships like the Red and the Apollo, which will probably be able to have better stuff, and the Red gives you 2 beds. And even though it's more expensive than this, like it's double the price, you're getting double the beds and also all of the
storage
resources. Yeah, it's
what this ship is for the Carrack. It is so obviously for the Carrack. That is what it's for. It is a different Swiss Army knife to swap into the Carrack. That's what it's for. Yeah.
That's but it's if you don't have a Carrack or you don't have a large ship, it's a support ship for a large ship. It's like an Argo, the MPUV. Like there's no reason to get an MPUV unless you have a specific use for it as a support vessel, as that Swiss Army support vessel. So
Algared,
100%.
No, go on the next one. All right, cool. Tell me about the Expedition, Algared. Same thing, Algared, you reckon? Or
same thing.
Just a bit different support with the cargo, I guess?
It's a different ship for the Carrack. It's got cargo. It does have the 2 jump seats. I do like the fact that it's got the jump seat in it. That means you can take an extra person. It's got the cargo.
2 people, actually, right?
Fair bit cheaper as well.
Yeah, I was thinking 2 people, but I wasn't wanting to go out on a limb in case I was wrong.
It's been a hot minute since Algared's been in one. He takes to do the highbrow,
I will also add that this is unique because I think this is actually a starter ship.
Agreed.
Like they did sell it with a starter package at one point, so it's the Anvil starter ship, and I think the starter package is a little bit more expensive because it's like akin to something like the Cutter.
Yep.
So it's like a Cutter competitor, but it's still like
from memory it was $60, but don't quote me on that. From memory.
Yeah, that's slightly cheaper than the Cutter because I think the Cutter is 65, or am I thinking? Yeah.
Oh man, you're trying to get me to pull numbers out of my butt from like 2 years ago. Yeah.
I'll look it up.
I am not a numbers person. That is the one thing I'm really bad at. I always focused on gameplay and I left all the numbers to Algared. That was my thing. He does all the stats and all that. Which is probably in hindsight an error, but I always knew they were going to change as time went on as well. So, and they've changed repetitively.
So the Expedition starter pack is $60.
All right, cool.
$60.
Yeah. Okay. All right, I did remember that. Correct.
And that is with the hangar, 1,000 UEC, 6 month insurance, and the game pack.
Yeah.
So.
All right. So the other thing we got to point out is the Carrack does actually come with this. And it also comes with
not the Expedition. It comes with the standard one.
Yeah, it comes with a standard one. Unless you buy the skin pack, then it does get turned into that. But it comes with a standard Pisces. Does it still come with a rover? Or am I remembering that incorrectly?
No, comes
with the rover. Man, I feel drunk now. I'm getting to that point where I'm like, questioning my sanity because I haven't had enough sleep over the last 2 weeks. Right. So yeah. I am moving away from this ship, and I don't mean it as in this ship is bad. I was having a talk with Drazen the other day, right? And he helped Space Smarter with a lot of stuff like with his org and all that, right? And they actually looked into the Carrack, and they had over 200 Carracks in their org. And then I asked him about the Odyssey, and they only had 11 Odysseys. That's why I'm thinking about moving away from this ship, because too many people have it.
So the thing about it was that it was the meta ship. It was the best ship in Star Citizen for many years, but it was never going to be forever the best ship in Star Citizen. The reason why it was the best ship was because it had tier 2 beds, it had medical beds, and it had a bunch of other storage space, and it was the beds were really the big thing on top of all the other support, and it's like quantum, how much quantum fuel it has, and all sort of thing.
Yep.
But as time goes on, CIG realized this was the meta ship, and here's the thing you got to understand about all metas, and this is the reason why I will personally say never buy a ship on the meta, buy for the purpose, and even then,
or buy it for release. Don't buy it for
Yeah.
now. That's the other way to put that.
Because CIG will change things. You look at the Redeemer. Like Redeemer has waffled all over the place. Same with the Constellation. Like CIG sometimes will have a hard time finding a ship's purpose. So if you aren't sure that it's going to stay its purpose what it is, or you then don't buy it, and especially don't buy it because it's hot meta, because CIG will just nerf that meta instantly.
Well, look at the Corsair.
Thing you've got to look.
The Corsair just got
Corsair,
one.
Ares, like all the big ships. So
I think one of the things you've got to look at when you look at any ship is what do they say the purpose is. This ship, we've always said, is a deep space explorer.
Mm-hmm.
It's the one that goes in first. It checks the system out. It finds that it does. It's got the rover so you can do your first search. It's got the little snub ships. So those things do make it. They give it a lot of value, but it's not the be all and end all ship. But one of the things that did make it have that feel is it's got drones. It's got you name the bits and pieces, and it's probably got them.
Well, that's one of the things. Like when they did that vote way back when, exploration was like 79% of the vote, and I still think a lot of people are really into exploration. But with so many people having one from the get-go, like if that's the only ship you own from the get-go, I think exploration's gonna be. Look, how do I put this? Like too many cooks type of thing. There's gonna be too many Carracks at the start of the game that it's just going to kind of be a kind of flooded. I don't know how else to put that. So my thought was like, well, instead of having a Carrack, how about I go up to the Odyssey, and at least I've got a different explorer, and I can earn back to the Carrack and just get one in game. Because again, go into your org if you're in an org and look at the numbers of people that have got Odysseys and other explorers, and the Carrack is way out in front. But back when they did the vote, it essentially went Aurora, Vanguard, and then this. They were the three most popular ships. And we're going back like 8 years, I think, Algared would be roughly that long, wouldn't it? So it's obviously changed quite a bit. But to have
it was overtaking the Aurora.
And the Vanguards dropped back and things like that. But to have a big ship so close up to the front, that just tells you how many people brought this thing. So yeah,
I still think it goes to the purpose of a ship. It is that deep space explorer, and I think the Odyssey is a good choice because it's as we've always thought, the planetary explorer. They're both explorers, but I'm not saying really focus on different things. But
I'm not saying it's bad, Algared. I'm just saying too many people
I
have
what you're
it.
Saying.
You're excited again because you're peaking. So we've now got warning when Algared gets excited because he's gonna peak every time.
Yeah. I will also add, I think the Carrack is also going to start losing a lot of its popularity because of how exploration. So basically, up until this point, people have had this fantasy of what exploration is going to be.
Yeah.
And the fact that there are 5 systems in 1.0 has absolutely destroyed that fantasy. And I think with that fantasy dying with a lot of people, you're going to see a lot of folks start to pull back on their exploration ships, and I see a lot of people melting their Carrack for something like the Odyssey or some other ships like that. I think maybe smaller exploration ships with some other options, because the idea of exploring new wormholes is not going to be a thing.
Transient wormholes, that's what you're forgetting.
Yeah, but transient wormholes aren't going to be the size of a Carrack.
You don't know.
We don't know
because they're.
We don't know. They haven't. All we know is they're going to be temporary, and they're going to have different time allotments. We don't know anything about the size yet. Again, when you find one and it's small, the Carrack goes through.
It's not a small jump point. Pisces go through.
Yeah, what did I say? I thought I said the Pisces.
You said the Carrack.
Oh, I meant to say the Pisces goes through. Oh God, I'm so tired.
But that's the value of the Carrack. It brings its little Pisces with it, so it can go explore those small jump points. And
I just see until CIG has that really locked down, the Carrack's value is starting to drop dramatically compared to other ships. And I think a lot of people's just perception is reality. The perception of the Carrack being valuable is going to start dropping.
The problem I have with people with that image of being that great explorer and being able to explore the 100 systems and all that.
Yeah. making love to
We've-
beautiful alien women.
But we've known since 2014 at least about the line of 5.
Yeah.
We knew that because Chris had said in a 10 for the channel,
First 5
when we
systems.
start, we'll have 5 systems, and we'll bring the others on as we go. That's why content creators like us went through and said, talked about the line of 5, and we said, okay, we know Stanton, we know Pyro, because they've already told us that. What are the other systems that work?
Yeah.
So we've known for a decade or more that it wasn't going to be 100 systems at the very beginning. We knew it was going to be 5. So people who came in thinking, I'm going to be an explorer in my Carrack and explore 100 systems from the get-go, just didn't listen to the information that was out there.
Yeah.
So I get frustrated when that's the case. And
all right, we've beaten the Carrack to death.
Yeah,
We're going to move on.
Well, we had to.
Yeah, I know. We had to.
We can just summarize. This is the same problem as the Ballista. All of these are the same problems.
Yeah, but if we don't move on from the Carrack, all we're going to talk about is the Carrack for the episode.
I know.
I can just see where it's going because
let's move on from the Centurion.
It's interesting.
We've already talked about it.
Yeah.
We've already talked about it. Let's move on from the Centurion.
$110. It's basically a cheaper, shittier Ballista. Right.
Yeah.
The Crucible. I think we're all a big fan of this one.
Yeah.
I do think this one's coming sooner rather than later. With the base building coming along, I think the next step after base building is repair. Your guys' thoughts on that?
I think it's connected. I think they're both the same thing. So I don't know because they already have repair missions. Like repair missions are already in the game with 4.0.
But by the hand tools and stuff, yeah.
With the hand tools, yeah.
Yep.
So and engineering is going to have repair in the game. I think. I don't know if the Crucible will necessarily make it. I wouldn't be surprised if we saw one of the ships in the
like a Vulcan,
teaser, like a Vulcan, or one of the ships in the teaser being like a repair ship,
or a new repair ship as well. That could be on the cards as well. Yeah,
like a new repair ship, because we also know that the Ironclad Assault has a component fabricator, and they're actively working on the Ironclad. So.
Mm-hmm.
Like I probably not next year, but the year after next. So I wouldn't be surprised if the Crucible is on that list because of
Algared.
Well, but we'll see. So
what's the safe about Algared?
Buy an upgrade, sit on it.
So Gemini to Crucible, $10.
Yep.
Bang, done.
Exactly the same as you do with the Endeavour. But this thing will grow. We know it's going to grow because it's supposed to be able to fit a Hornet in the Scarab. The Hornet metrics have grown. It has to fit a Hornet. It will grow to fit that. We know from the repair, it's a ship that was originally designed or envisaged to be the one that repairs the capital ships. That to me says it's the one that possibly could do the component replacement of those capital ships, just tossing ideas out there. But it's also, I think, will have manufacturing, but it won't be a base builder. It'll be one that does vehicles and
It'll at least build components to put into the ships and stuff. Yeah. I think the other thing just to highlight what Algared was saying there about the Hornet is this is all before metrics came along, so that's the other reason it's got to increase in size. And if you think about it, it has to have roughly that Scarab has to roughly be on par with the Polaris's hangar, so because it's the same size, and you basically need space to walk around the ship and stuff like that. That also explains why this would grow. So that Scarab.
NPCs need to be able to traverse it as well because they'll need to put it in NPCs. So it's got to get bigger. And on top of that, the interior space has to be traversable, and it has a drone bay. So it's going to be huge.
Yeah. So again, take the Polaris hangar, and that's roughly what the Scarab has to be. And then also you take the Scarab out. It then allowed things like the Constellation and the Retaliator. There are screenshots of this where the Scarab is taken out. And they kind of park in there instead, and it repairs them with the arms. So there's actually, if you actually look, there's 2 sets of arms. You can actually see it in the photo if I actually look here. So you got the arms inside the Scarab, and then you can see just tucked here, there are another little arms as well. So those arms, so those little arms here are for the bigger ships essentially, and the smaller ones here. And the interesting thing is there is batteries and stuff in this. So if you actually drop the Scarab out, it'll actually run on its own. It'll run on its own for a time period, which is really interesting.
Here's the thing about the Crucible, though. Everything you just said tells me that this isn't coming out until they figure out modularity, a better version of modularity. So which is after 1.0, which is what John Cruz said the other day. So, which means that we're probably not going to see this until after 1.0. That's the problem.
It's either going to be the Vulture or a new one, is what I think. Mainly because drones are coming with the base building. It's like, how much extra do you have to go to get to repair? And I'm going to be honest, building a building and repairing are basically on par. It's just that you'll start doing the repair at a different point. It's like half a building instead of the full building, if you get what I mean. And you got to do a bit of cleanup. So it's like reverse it, the building a bit, and then start building again. So it's pretty close already. So it's either going to be the Vulture or something new, but I can't see why it wouldn't be the Vulture at this point. So yeah.
You mean the
Vulcan?
Vulcan.
I said Vulture, didn't I? Sorry, apologies.
You're tired. I get it.
Yep.
I'm just clarifying it because no misinformation.
No, that's what I want. Thank you very much. All right. Do we want to put these two together or talking about them separately?
Put all three?
There is three, is there? Yeah, we also have the Super Hornet. Oh no, we don't. So we've got the Hornet, the Tracker, and the Ghost. So obviously the Tracker and the Ghost are now $10 more expensive. I don't know how much functionality they're going to have at this point. Really, they're just almost... Yeah, actually, they're almost backwards in functionality, because in this you can at least carry cargo or 2SC of cargo. So in a weird type of way, I'd almost be getting this and just getting an upgrade and sitting on it until they actually get some gameplay, if that's what you want. But again, being fighters...
Well, you can buy them for their purpose and then just wait for it, because I do think that one of the first things we're going to see next year, probably not, I thought for a while it's going to be Q1, but now with CIG Dragon basically belly crawling their way through 4.0 at the end of the year, it's going to be slight tangent. It's going to be a mess. No matter what you think of 4.0, do not play 4.0 at live. Like it's going to be awful experience. Like, find another game to play over the holidays. I know that sucks, but like, don't come back to it until March. Like, go enjoy life for a couple of months while Star Citizen deals with its shit, and then come back. But when either probably maybe March, but probably more like the Invictus patch, we're going to see scanning and stealth being added to the game, because they've been talking about that extensively in the monthly reports. So when they do, those ships are going to be like some of the highlights. It's clear they're bringing them in now because they have ships done and they have the systems being worked on.
Well, so, both these will get highlighted there, won't they? Because obviously scanning here, but stealth is kind of like the inverse of scanning in a way. Like, it's harder to detect them. So they'll both get a bit of a boon there in that time period.
Which is all preparation for Nyx. And one thing I will also add before Algared goes, which is there is a special upgrade. So if you already have one of these in the Mark 1 and you want the Mark 2, it is a $15 upgrade. Even though it says 185 on there, there is a special. If you click on the little thing up there, it says special. It will say that there's a special upgrade CCU for 165. So for both of them.
I can't. It won't let me. So it must be. I must be when you go into view offers. Hang on, let's have a quick look just to confirm.
Yeah.
There you go. 165. What's included? Mark II Hornet lifetime insurance. So that's a war bond. But I assume you're talking about if you upgrade from the Mark.
If you go to upgrade now, if you go to the upgrade now,
and then I'd have to go MK Mark 1, 2 options. There you go. Warbond. Yeah. No, Warbond. Oh, it's still Warbond. No, there's... No, it's still Warbond.
It's still Warbond.
Yeah, okay. you got to pay cash. Yeah.
It does give you LTI.
Yep.
Okay. So I was wrong. I thought there was an actual Warbond. I thought there was an cross-chassis upgrade, but there is not a cross-chassis upgrade Warbond. So, yeah. So yeah. You have to shell it out entirely again. That's kind of messed up.
Yeah,
but that's CIG this year, isn't it?
Exactly what happened with this thing when it came along. So yeah.
I struggle with the Mark IIs. I struggle with the Mark IIs because the game wasn't really out, and they brought in the Mark IIs as a replacement for Mark I's. Now we've known for years as well that CIG intended to do different variants and bring them out as Mark IIs, Mark IIIs, Mark IVs, etc. as the years went on. I get that was the plan. But because the game isn't out, because the Ghost and the Tracker didn't have the gameplay in,
it
really felt dirty to bring in a Mark II.
Would have been fine
It would have
after the
been-
game was out, wouldn't it, Algared?
Had they brought these in and said, yeah, this is the new skin for the Hornets we've got, or everyone who's got Mark 1 already, yeah, we're doing a straight upgrade because that's the new standard, and then down the track bring in a Mark 3 or a Mark 4, and then once a game was out, do that. But to do it now, it just felt absolutely dirty. Now it's just me, and I'm sure there are others who feel that. And,
No, I think you're not the only one there, mate.
but so yeah, that's my beef with it. But I always like the Hornets. I always like the idea of the Ghost and the Tracker. The idea of them working as a group with the other Hornets to do the jobs was great. But
If I'm not mistaken, I just want to check one
they're
thing
fighters.
really quickly. I'm pretty sure I'm on point here. I'm going through all the ships to find it. I'm looking for the Super Hornet.
Super Hornet's not on sale.
Interesting,
Mark-
because what I
the Mark
remember
1
is the Super Hornet was this price. So that means there's a Super Hornet Mark II coming.
There
God,
is.
if that's $50 more, that puts it at what, $235, or is my math off? That's insane.
No, that's about right. That we know that a Mark II version of the Super Hornet is coming. They said all of the variants are getting it, but the first two are going to be the Hornet Ghost and the Tracker. So
yeah,
I was just not expecting them to be this year because the way they said it was like going to be next year. So
right. The F8 Lightning, $300. I find this a very hard pill to swallow. Now the Paladin came along at $300, don't you?
yeah,
yeah, I do think that this is still a better fighter because it's a one-person ship. You can control all the guns, whereas the Paladin is 4-person to effectively crew it. So,
Well, it really comes down to whether you like multi-crew or not. But I personally prefer multi-crew, but that's just me.
yeah, but I mean, I think one of the things that this sale and this year is really illustrating is that, like, if you are a multi-crew, if you are somebody who's looking for meta ships for solo player, or like the best ships for solo players, you're going to look at fighters, and you won't be able to operate well unless you have a very specific fighters. The thing I don't like about the F8C Lightning is that it is straight up just a better fighter. It's just the best fighter that exists.
I don't think that's exactly.
Power, you can buy power.
We'll have to see that down the road, because I think, again, light fighters will have the maneuverability. It'll be like a rock paper scissors thing. I think when it lands eventually. Yeah. And they did talk about that, didn't they? Way back in the day, they talked about, like, so fighters would be weak to medium ships would be weak to large would be weak to capital, and then capital would be weak to fighters. That was the original rock paper scissors shotgun, or whatever you want to call it. But yeah. Aggers, anything you want to add for the Lightning? Oh.
Probably the other thing to remember is the C means civilian, which means these versions are not going to be bound by that or I think won't be bound by that military ship being able to be built.
Yeah, because it's
a
civilian.
But the F8A will be better than this by, like chalk and cheese better.
I think that's the other thing that we do need to hear from them is even though it's an F8C, is it still technically classed as military? Because again, they didn't give that distinction at CitizenCon, and now there's this: is it a civilian or a military? Like the Carrack's another good example. Do you know what I mean? Like, is it military or is it civilian? So yeah. All right, the Gladiator, an oldie bit of goodie.
One of my favorites.
Got a bit of a buff recently too, didn't it? A bit more tanky now.
It's a tank. Yeah.
Yeah. I always did think it was a tank, but it's nice to see it's tankier. One thing I did ask when we were talking to John and Ben was about the modularity of this thing, because in law it is.
Oh, that's right. Yeah, you did too.
And Ben was saying one of the problems that they have with this was twofold. One, it kind of had that same problem that the Gladiator would have in terms of, not the Gladiator, the Retaliator. The torpedoes. So that was an issue. But the other issue was because the missile bay on this thing is so big, if you created the bomb bay, you'd end up with these 4 little bombs in this massive hole. And so he was thinking what you'd really need to do is do variants of the ship rather than modules for the ship. Now, I wouldn't really care if you had the modules, but I do like the idea. I always like the idea of a Gladiator being able to be configured as either a cargo vessel to drop supplies, or a bomber, or a
medical. There was a medical variant at one point with search and rescue where it would like bring a bed down. So I still think that the modules are better in that sense, and I think CIG would make more money off of it, because if you're trying to sell a Gladiator and for modules, people will buy the modules that they want rather than buying a brand new ship.
Yeah.
I think you when you run into like, well, we're just gonna do different variants. It's like, cool.
Yeah.
Well, people aren't going to spend an additional $200 on 2 different variants of the Gladiator. They'll might make it in game kind of thing. So
yeah, it really picks up that the cost of a Gladiator is what, 165, and the question is, do I spend another 165 or 180 or 185 getting the variant, or do I spend $20 getting the modules? And I think people would be more willing to buy the Gladiator and buy all 3 modules, or all the modules that are available, for an extra $80 than to spend.
Yeah, but the other way to look at it is that it's just get one module in and the others in game. That's the other way to do it too.
Yep.
So
yep.
Gives you more flexibility.
But there'd be more. I think they'd make more sales on the modules than they would trying to sell the ships. The small purchase sells more, or small prices sell more. I think.
Peaking.
I could be wrong. Yeah. Think big. Think big.
No.
Think big.
Peaking.
Every
time you peak, my ears bleed.
I'm sorry. But think small. Think big by selling small.
Hawk. I really enjoy this as a solo ship. There's something really fun about using it, and I think again, once bounty hunting comes in, it'll kind of have a bit more of a renaissance. I am interested in the bounty hunting coming in later, hopefully next year. I don't know. It's a bit dated now as ships go, but it always reminded me a little bit of. I know we've got the X-wing now, but do you know what I mean? Like, it's got a Star Wars feel to it. I don't know how to explain it.
Yeah, it has a very Star Wars aesthetic to it in terms of its angular design and everything like that. I think personally, I think this is a better profession starter than the Stalker.
Agreed.
Because the thing that the Stalker has is it has a bed, which is a little bit better, but this thing has so much guns, and in theory, in lore, again. And I only bring this up because it's in lore, because the writers didn't just sort of create stuff on the fly. They asked the developers what they wanted to do with these ships. So when they come up with these, in Anvil's looking at different variants, have said it's because some of the developers wanted to do a variant or a modular or whatever. So with this one, they said there were 2 variants that they were planning possibly to do, which is the Shadow Hawk and the Dire Hawk. Which is the Shadow Hawk has a stealth coating to it, and the Dire Hawk gives 2 additional size 1 guns to the thing. So,
I in a weird way, I do find you mentioned the Avenger Stalker, right?
Yeah.
This is a weird variant of that in a way. It essentially gives up the bed, but you get the Warlock and the Stalker in one. If you kind of think about it, that's kind of essentially what you get, because you're getting.
It has an EMP, doesn't it?
Yeah, you're getting the EMP off the Warlock, but you're giving up the bed to get it. That's how I've always kind of seen this one. But obviously, it's got a few, and more guns, but they're a little smaller in some places as well. So it.
Oh yeah, they're all like size 1 or size 2s comparatively, but when you stack all of those together, and it means you can with the power plant that it has, it can fire a lot more fire. Like, is it better to shoot 1 size 3 gun twice or 4 size 1 guns 10 times?
And not only that, you can have different types as well.
Yeah. So
yeah, it's definitely a boon, not a weakness in my book, anyway. But Algared, anything you want to add about the Hawk?
Nope. We do know that I suppose the prisoner section is changing to a lay down container rather than a seat, but it's a nice ship.
That's good to mention, though. That is good to mention. Hurricane.
This second Divine War.
Yeah. I think this is a favorite of ours. It's fun to fly. There is something about the dynamic between the pilot and the turret gunner that I just absolutely love.
Yeah, it's fun. It's one of the better examples of multi-crew in Star Citizen. It used to be, for a while, it was the top dog. It was like the best fighter in the game, because, if you have 2 people in it, you become insanely dangerous. And it's just fun. I mean, I was hanging out with you and Piggles and at one point, and you were in a hurricane doing phase 3 of Safe Stanton. So it's like, even I can attest that even X uses his Hurricane. He loves his Hurricane in game. So
it's a great ship. Yeah. I love
it. I don't intend to keep it because it's a fighter, but as I've built up, I've got it kind of sitting there to go to Aurelian or something in that price point. Might even go to the Paladin from this. But yeah, I just left it there because it's a ship that I enjoy. So it's just nice to have. And as I said, like I've gone out with badges in it, Algared in it, multiple random people. I haven't gone out with you though, Paul. Me and you should go out one time. It's just fun.
I remember This is probably the as far as I know, one of my big claims to fame was me and Texas Skulls when this game first came out. We're in a hurricane, and a bunch of streamers were doing some sort of setup for like a conflict, and I knew them, so I just said I'm going to mess with them. So we flew by while playing Rock You Like a Hurricane as loud as we could, and then shot a bunch of stuff up and then ran away, and they decided to chase after us, and when they chased after us, they blew us up, and eventually like, hey, this was fun, you want to keep doing it? And so we ended up getting like two sides, and we ended up fighting just for fun over this. And it was the first time, because it was right around when they first expanded the game to like 60 players, before they tiered it back down to 50. It was like basically 15 or 20 v20 in space. It was kind of a madhouse, and it was fun. So it's definitely one of my favorite experiences in Star Citizen. Whenever the hurricane comes up, I mentioned that it's a fun ship to antagonize violence with, to encourage violence.
I will say this: when I was looking at the Paladin, and the quad size 5 turret, this is quad size 4, and it's a lot of fun. The pilot in the Paladin does not appear to have guns, and he's got crew. So that dynamic between the pilot and the gunners is going to be enhanced. And so I wonder whether flying the Paladin with even one person in that quad turret will be as fun as a Hurricane. So,
well, it's something you and I talked about with Redeemer, wasn't it? Like if you remove the guns off the pilot and just let it keep its bigger guns, it's kind of essentially what's happened here. It is essentially a bigger Hurricane if you think it. It's a size 5 Hurricane on top, and then 2 remote turrets on the side. So it's gonna be interesting. I really do think that Paladin, once it's out, we're gonna have to run it through its paces. But I think as I said to you, the weakness is gonna be behind. But that's it. For another time. All right. The Legionnaire. The Turducken is what I call this one. How do I phrase this? I am kind of looking forward to a boarding ship that boards other ships. We don't kind of have that yet. But obviously also we need the hacking gameplay to go along with that. I've heard people say that you should just make it so it's in the game. And I'm like, but then you could just rock up to someone's ship and enter it whenever you want. And that doesn't sound fun to me.
Yeah.
So you really do need the hacking gameplay, or it's going to be a bit weird. Anything you guys want to add about that one?
I suppose if they added it to a game, even without the hacking gameplay, and you had to, it was for boarding soft dead ships. That would be, you could get around. I could cope with that.
Probably. But I've just realised it's probably got a little bit of look off the Paladin. I've just realised with the armoured front, they are very somewhat similar. I didn't even think of that until just then. Sorry.
Yeah, the larger ships from Anvil are basically all not copies of each other, but they're definitely like they crib off of each other, because this looks very similar to the Valkyrie, which looks very similar, and the Paladin looks similar to like both of them. And then if you actually look at it, a lot of those origins come from the Hurricane. If you look at the Hurricane cockpit, it looks very similar to those as well, which is the larger vessels of there. Even the Carrack has a bit of that just expanded out, because it looks like what the Paladin has is the Carrack cockpit, but just snub nosed. It's a little smaller because it's got the glass underneath it, just like the Carrack does. So, yeah.
Anything you want to add? I will say the price is quite low, considering even when it came out, I was surprised how low it was at 120.
120.
Agrid's trying to look. Agrid, I can just Agrid, I can just do this. It's okay. Don't stress yourself. It's fine. Yeah.
It's a boarding ship and a cheap drop ship, but yeah.
Again, a ship I could see being paired with a Javelin or any other ship for where you want to do boarding.
Yeah, it's a perfect Polaris pair. So
the Liberator, the shipping ship. I kind of think
my ship.
Yeah, I kind of think that, as I said, doing some ships and some vehicles, and now we've got the Ironclad Assault that does just the vehicles. I have to think there's some other ship coming, whether it's a variant of this or something else, that's just ships. because the Ironclad's just vehicles, and I think that'll be the one that. I think the Ironclad Assault and whatever the ships one will be the most popular. Where this doing both is just a. I think this was designed to take vehicles through jump points or smaller ships that don't have jump drives. I don't think it's. It's a ferry. I don't think it's designed to.
If it's a ferry, it needs beds. The one thing I will say with the Liberator, it needs to get a little bit longer. And it needs to have internal place for 30 people to sleep in it, and plus.
Why do you need beds to go through a jump point? No, because you're literally no. As long as you can get to the station, it just takes you from station through the wormhole to the other station.
Then there needs to be some sort of recreation area where you can relax and not have to worry about the trap. There's nothing.
There's an area for a bunch of people to sit.
No, not really. I'd have to look at the
I'd have to go back through it again.
From memory, that was a few jump seats. But
jump seats.
I agree. It needs that quality of life waiting area.
You've all been on a ferry before. I know you have. You live in Australia, and X, you live in Tasmania. So I know that you have to take a ferry to go someplace at some point. So you know how ferries work. Ferries are a bunch of seats in a.
Ferries are boring. They're boring.
Yep.
But you have a bunch of seats in an area where you can sit down and wait where you travel, or you can go out into the deck and look at things, or and if you're on a long-term ferries, they have deeper in the holes, they have bunk beds where you can go sleep there overnight if you need to.
The one that travels from Hobart to Melbourne.
Yeah, and
so you mean Georgetown to Melbourne? I think that's
wherever.
What you mean?
I don't know.
Yeah,
wherever it is,
Yeah. But my point is that that's the one thing that this thing has always lacked is some sort of proof that this is a ferry, because they even talk about it in the documentation for it. They call it a civilian ship, which is freaking hilarious because it's being shown dropping vehicles off in a war zone. It's what? Civilian what?
So and it's only got 2 crew. If it was military, it'd have a lot more crew.
Give it a passenger viewing screen. Give it a lounge. Give it a
lounge and a place and an observation place. Where you can take glass.
A few takeaway machines so you could buy your drink or buy your food. Doesn't need a proper kitchen. Just needs a big Benny's and
and his pips and he needs some vending machine.
A couple of vending machines, a couple of seats. And that's all it needs at bare minimum. And then if you want to go long term, then chuck in some beds that can deal with.
At its current price and its current range, it's hard to swallow that.
Yeah, that is.
I still think it makes it better than the Hercules though, because it's only a small jump above the I believe the M2. It's like $50 or something, and you're getting a much bigger ship than what the M2 can do, especially. But when the M2's kind of claim to fame was the vehicle transportation thing, this just ate that for breakfast.
But if you want a vehicle transportation, just get the Ironclad Assault because it's $50. It's $25. It's $25 cheaper than the Liberator. So.
That too as well. Yeah. All right, the Paladin, today's hotness, $300. I just realized these people are surrendering.
Yes, because they've got a quad size 5 turret pointed at them.
Yeah,
I'd be surrendering too.
So it's kind of cool that is it's essentially got to be a remote turret. It can't be anything else. But looking at the photo, it looks like a remote turret. I honestly thought it was going to be a turret that you could move, but it's clearly just a remote turret. But that's still kind of cool. So it's going to have a lot of coverage on it as a gunship goes.
And that turret being able to fire backwards as well. You're chasing that thing. You're going to eat a lot of size 5.
Yeah, it's obviously It's interesting. I still kind of curious how this flies because it doesn't have the VTOLs that the Valkyrie does. It's definitely got a lot stripped back, and even the VTOLs it does have are a lot smaller. So
I imagine it's not efficient. I imagine it's a fuel hog in atmosphere. So.
So the other thing me and Algared noticed too, and we shared with you, was it's $250 war bond to $300 credit, or
it's $260 war bond when I saw. So it may be something a little different.
Unless you've got taxes, I swear it was it's $260. My bad. You are correct. All right, but that's still a very big jump for war bond. It's not usually that big. I would expect $20 at that, not $40. So that's a really big jump. But the thing is, if you do the math on it, usually these ships go up by 10 to 20% on release. What's $330 currently, Algared?
I'm going to say...
He's forgotten the name of the ship.
Yep.
The Redeemer?
Yeah, your favorite ship, Paul.
Yeah.
It's $330. I think they're squarely lining this up to be exactly the same price as the Redeemer, so you can't upgrade into it off. So if you had a Redeemer and you don't want the Redeemer anymore and you wanted a Paladin, they deliberately set it up so it's cheaper or the same price, so you can't upgrade off the Redeemer. So you have to pay all new cash, so you have to buy a whole new ship. That's their plan. I think that's what they're going for. Trying to get people to...
Back in the day, it would have just melted your Redeemer and bought a new ship, but...
Yeah.
My ears.
You could do that with the 300, but it's 300 and it's non-war bond, or it's non-LTI. So, like, what they want you to do is they want you to melt your Redeemer, buy an Intrepid, cross-chassis upgrade with the credit, and then... then have leftover credit for something else, like the skins or something like that. So...
Please let me know in the comments below if Algared makes your ears bleed when he peaks, because I need to know. I just want to know, because he's doing it to me, so if he's doing it to me, he's probably doing it to you guys too. Right.
I still think it's an attenuation thing.
I believe it does, because I was watching one of the videos where it was peaking, and it was making my ears bleed. So
so just be really careful of it.
I am trying to.
Yep.
I am trying to. I'm being very calm.
Yep.
And very quiet.
The cheap man Spartan. I think this was an LTI token one year. Do you remember that?
Mm-hmm.
And there was that guy we had to help, and he had to buy like 5 Spartans to get LTI tokens. But anyway, so this is probably the APC of the Atlas platform, I guess. Is that what we would call this? So, kind of specializes in transforming heavy armored troops that you can wield full sets of heavy armor. That's its kind of claim to fame. But again, it's an earning game for me. I think you boys will agree on that one, yeah.
Yeah, it's the same just like all the other Atlas chassis. They're very... The vehicles are hard to swallow, and these things are super expensive. So
Yep. All right.
That's probably the cheapest one, though.
It is the cheapest one. Algared, tell me about the Terrapin.
Terrapin. What's not to like about the Terrapin? It's a flying turtle. It's armored. It can close itself off and kind of go invisible. So it's great for that stealthy type of gameplay. It's a scout in lore, which goes back to
invisible. You hear that? He said invisible.
Shush.
It lowers its signature so it appears visible to scanners. Its clarification is important.
Be quiet or I'll peek on you.
He's not wrong, though. It is designed to. There is going to be a different gameplay with that one, though, is because the whole idea is that it closes its vents, so it keeps the heat inside, so you're going to have a higher heat buildup with the ship than you would otherwise, because it doesn't have good coolers. So,
and then when you open up, then the heat gets out and you glow like a Christmas tree. But then you can always close yourself off. So it's a good ship for that. It's also a ship in lore where there was the rescue variant, which we now have, and also a troop variant, which the Marines like or the Special Forces like, because they could get in and get out nice and safe. And even though it's lore, it's the type of thing that, as you were saying, the developers get brought to the lore team and they say, this is what we want, and the lore team then kind of writes that into the lore. And so
it's somebody at CIG said they wanted to do a troop variant of this, and they were like, yeah, cool, let's write that in. So
hopefully we get to see that in the future. I think that'd be kind of cool. Medical Terrapin to me it's definitely not a thing for me personally. I was hoping it would be a little bit more than just what it is. It just feels a little bland. Maybe I'm not able to see it yet because the gameplay's not there. We don't have all that combat and stuff, but it falls flat for me.
It's not a bad choice only because of its tier 2 bed. Its tier 2 bed means that it's kind of a little bit above most of the other vessels. It has a nice spot. The problem it has is the same problem that the Pisces has. It has no internal storage. So it's going to be, you're going to use your resources up really quick. So this is really designed as, I would say, a add-on to a Javelin or a Idris or a Polaris, where you have a main ship that you can park this thing on, and it has the supplies you can pull into and throw into it. But that's if you don't have an Apollo, which is the reason why the Apollo is
That's
so much better than most of these ships. So
that's what I was about to pull up. And that is my biggest issue with this ship. Like, so when you have the Apollo here at $250, I just can't see. Which has, if you take the same size beds as in tier 2, this will have 4 of them.
4. Yeah,
and it's got storage for materials and
drones. Apparently, multiple drones. I said drone, and people got mad at me when I said drone because they're like multiple drones. There are multiple drones. It's like, that's fine, but it's drone. Drone is drone. Drone is drone.
Yeah. So 220 versus 250. I just can't get behind it at that price. I'm sorry. And the fact that they brought it out at that price, I think, is just insane. Like, I can't see the value. Again, when I bring up the Terrapin itself, it has the same problem. It is just too expensive for what it is. Unless there's some kind of astronomical amount of armor on this thing and it's built like Ned Kelly, and if you don't know who Ned Kelly is, he was a bushranger that wore a bucket on his head and they'd shoot him and he couldn't get shot because he had a metal bucket on his head. Anyway, that's what I'm trying to reference. So I just don't understand why this thing is so damn expensive, other than rule of cool.
I think they're going to have to justify it with armor because even in lore, that's its whole spiel is that it's got a lot of armor. So it has to the gameplay has to reflect it. And if it doesn't, then CIG is messed up because this thing should be harder to kill or as hard to kill as like, I don't know. Cutlass Steel right now is pretty tough, but like it should be up. It should be up there with like. I'm not even joking. It is. That thing is built like a brick. Yep. It should be damn near capital class in terms of its stuff.
I would hope that this thing, like the Valkyrie, like the Terrapin itself, can close itself off and almost, because holding the heat in, almost appear invisible to scanners, and then when it's needed, pop out, pick up the people and get out. But I do think it does need to have that armor aspect and be hard to kill because. Even in the lore, when you're reading the lore, it's not, we stripped off the armor to do this. It's a variant of the highly armored, defensible.
Yeah, they just pulled the scanner array off. You know, that's all they did.
Well, they moved it to the bottom. The scanner array is on the bottom, actually. Believe it or not, they moved it from the top to the bottom.
Yeah, but it loses the
seat.
The second one.
The second one.
Yeah.
But I think that the other thing is, but the Terrapin, I think, has, in terms of a scanner, has a higher grade scanner than you'd see on ships its size, so it can actually really project that forward.
Yeah, it's obviously got 4 VTOLs to carry all its extra weight. There are things I can see in its value, but it just doesn't translate to right now. And even
$200.
Yeah, $220 is a lot. When you look at a Vulcan, being $200 right now, and that'll obviously be more expensive than this when it comes out. But a Vulcan's twice the size.
Yep.
Now you can get the medic with even special skins if you're a concierge for 200 war bond. So, and that probably feels like a better deal in general. Like that feels like a good price for it. 200 would make it $50 cheaper than the if it was just straight up 200, make it $50 cheaper than the Apollo, and we know the Apollo is going to go up in price probably another $50 to $100. So being at about $100 cheaper would have put it in a good position, but 220 still
220 just makes you go.
$50 is a better gap, but 30 you'd start to question your sanity at that point. So that's my only thing. It's just the cost. It just seems insane.
Yeah.
And it's more niche, obviously, than Apollo. And Apollo can change its beds and be more flexible. This is just combat, medic, and that's it. So that it's generalist and variety versus like niche, and that's why it just doesn't work as well for me. But yeah,
I think on one of the live streams when we were talking this, some of the military guys said that they'd like the combat medic rather than just an ordinary medic because of that. But I could be putting words into their mouth.
It's got a place. It's got a place. It's just
again, whether you pay cash for it or buy it in game. Yeah, and that's
right. The Valkyrie. Man, this thing looks expensive. I've always think this thing's been expensive for what it does. 4 cyclones and 20 troops.
4 cyclones, 1 cyclone.
Yeah, I always thought it was 1 cyclone.
I believe it is 4, gentlemen. I think you might want to check that. But let me know in the comments if I'm wrong. But from my memory, it was 4 cyclones or 1 rover.
You can fit 1 rover, but The cyclones are pretty big. Like, I don't think you can fit more than one. You might be able to fit two. You could probably fit four if you like if you cutlass blacked it, or you just like sort of stack things inside of it as much as possible. But yeah, it's still
four cyclones. I just googled it. It's 4 cyclones.
It's 4 cyclones.
Yep.
Yes. Okay.
Well, again, it makes sense. You got 20 troops.
Yeah, I know.
Yeah.
But I don't see how you get 4 cyclones in it. As somebody who's inside of these things a lot, that's a lot of.
Yeah.
That is a lot of like very tight spacing for that, but. Yeah.
Anyways, and it is tight. I won't lie, but you can again it's because it's to do with the troops. You want a few troops that are on the ground, and then you want a few troops in each cyclone. So that's kind of what they were going for. And this was built for Squadron. Let's be honest, it's going to appear somewhere in Squadron, and it's essentially designed for some scene with the cyclones and the troops and stuff, and whatever story beat is required.
Going forward with the sandworm type scenarios, this will be a classic ship with that. Drop off a cyclone or your land vehicle and wake up a worm
guns,
and then shoot it with the gun. So yeah,
I think its value is in that it can transport a lot of people. I think it's like 20. I think that each of those sides are like there's like 10 on each side, maybe even more, maybe 40. I'd have to double check the actual stats, but it's double row of drop seats on 2 sides. Really do make it a very big transport.
There you go. By the way,
that's the 4. Oof, that is parked against the entrance of those things. I don't know how you get out.
But there's also space behind them. They've parked them way too forward. You can actually, with the gate up, you know, the little gate thing that comes up. You can put 4 there. I've seen it.
Okay.
So yeah, that's how
I'll take your credit for it. I just don't see it. Anyways, I'm looking at the Valkyrie. To actually the number of drop seats.
Pretty sure it's 20 from my memory, but I could be wrong.
Dropship 20, 20. So it's 10 on each side, and plus gun racks. And if you look at the bottom of those areas, I've always felt like they feel like those are doors. So like on the bottom. So I wonder if either at one point they had a plan of those being modular, so you could swap them out for something else, or if they're envisioned to open up and the drop seats to drop down straight underneath it, so you could have some cover.
That'd be cool.
Get out. I don't know if that was ever planned, but it looks like that because of the bottom of that area. It looks like they're kind of like their doors of some kind. It might have just been their aesthetic to design, so like that's how it was installed to the ship, sort of thing. But you know,
it's because the military version drops nails from those dropships.
Possibly,
maybe, yeah. My biggest issue with this ship was always the bottom turret pretty much landed on the ground, like it was always really weird positioned.
Yeah,
but
basically touching the ground.
There is so much in this ship for its size. Like it literally is all crammed into, I believe it's a medium pad size as well. Like it's quite small for what it is. Yeah.
That's its advantage. It's a size 3 pad rather than a size 4. And
2 of these on a Valkyrie with a bunch of two Valkyries and a bunch of fighters going off a Kraken. I could totally see that being a thing.
100%.
Yeah.
Yeah. The thing about the thing about this is that its real value is that when you have large numbers of people and you need to get people from point A to point B with a vehicle, you can do that. Whereas there's just not the seats. And the other thing to remember is that if there's a seat, it means there's life support. So this is going to have a ton of life support. There are some problems which it still needs to get fixed, like the fact that every time you open up the doors, it will vacuum the crew compartments. Where like the people in the seats are more protected and pressurized than the people who are flying the freaking ship, which doesn't make any sense.
Yeah. Well, we'd assume with them doing the Paladin, this might get a gold pass as well.
Pass, so yeah, just a door. All we need is like a
glass window or something.
A glass window or like a wall to prevent you from depressing. But
now you said you'd like 2 of these on the Kraken X. I'd rather 2 Paladins on the Kraken.
Well, I'm just saying. I was talking about this specifically. But
yeah, I know. But
all of you are wrong. It's 2 Cutlass Steels on a Kraken.
Oh God, no. No, it's 2 redeemers, isn't it?
You deserve that, Algared. You deserve it. You started this. All right.
2 redeemers.
We've
Paul
done
loves
our
a redeemer. We know that.
We've done it. We've done our loop. Is there anything you guys would like to hear from people below in the comments about today, Anvil specifically?
I'll go with the easy one so the rest of y'all can do the harder ones, which is, are you getting a Paladin? And why are you getting Paladin, or why are you not getting a Paladin?
Algared?
What do you like about Anvil Day? What do you don't like about Anvil Day?
I think I'll go another easy one too and go the Medical Terrapin. Did you pick one up? Do you think they're too expensive? And I can put that across the board. Like some of the ships being combat. I think though now we do have the answer though, don't we? The buy versus build thing. I think I think I'll put that out there too. Do you see that as valuable now, being able to build them yourself? Just have the ship and not have to buy it off someone else, rather than building it in game. And for me, I think after a couple of weeks, that'll totally dissipate once the game starts up.
I wonder whether part of the thing with people are saying the sales are down. I wonder if part of it is also the fact that the ships we buy aren't top tier. So, you know, you'd have to go through the process of upgrading them, or they're not as good as the player-owned stuff. So
I don't think it's one thing either, because we're in an economic downturn. You know, you know, people are not spending across the board. Look at Black Friday. I don't know if you guys have noticed, but Black Friday is now Black Fortnite, and and they are way lower than I've ever seen years, like in the last 3 years. But they are like desperate to get cash. I've just noticed wherever I go, everything seems way cheaper than it has been previously.
And Australians have spent more globally per person than anyone else, apparently.
Yeah. That's just how we are.
And sadly, it's true.
Right, and do you think Algared is going to turn into a Peking duck? I want to hear that as well in the comments. But anyway, sorry, Algared. I had to have a go. I'm tired, but I'm still going to make jokes. Right. With that, then, where can people find you on the interwebs, Paul?
YouTube.com/the Astropub Live or the Astropub on Twitch, both of which you can catch my gaming and other content. If you like content like this where we discuss it, in fact, one of the latest episodes was Execute, myself and Space Tomato talking about ships of IAE. You can go to youtube.com/at the Captain's Table Podcast. And lastly, if you like any of the lore stuff, you can find myself and Algared with some Lore Citizen podcasts on our on my lore channel, The Astro Historian, on youtube.com/the Astro Historian.
All right,
that one also has a episode with Dave Haddock as well, talking.
Yeah, a full sit down discussion with the narrative director of the game himself. So
might be time I come along and do another one too over the break.
Well, we gotta figure something out, because I gotta restart the Lore Citizen podcast because we haven't done it in a while.
All right, then. He's been Astropub. He's been Algared. Oh wait,
he's been Execute, and we're out of here.
Not quite. Don't forget to like, subscribe, ring that notification bell, and thank you to everyone on the smile on Patreon at the end of the video. With that, then,
it does help a lot.
It does. All right. See you, citizens.
Bye, civilians.